Hey, what's up, everybody? And thank you for listening to Operation Agency Freedom, where we are bringing you top secret advice from the world's most badass digital agency owners. These amazing men and women are sharing their stories of how they have built 6, 7, and 8-figure digital agencies and how you can too. My name is Chris Martinez, CEO of Dude, where we help digital agencies by giving them the people and the processes so that they can scale profitably. And today I am joined by a legend, Brad Martineau from 6th Division. Welcome to the show, Brad.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't realize I'd reached legend status, but I'll take it.
You are a legend. Man, dude, I'm seriously, like, if you go to any, I feel like if you go to any digital marketing conference, you are speaking at that event.
I do a fair amount of speaking. So
how many miles do you think that you fly a year?
Oh, I don't know. I probably average, I don't know, like 2 trips a month maybe, but I usually try and keep them, short and tight. I picked up a rule from, are you familiar with Ed O'Keefe? You know who that is by chance?
No, I don't.
Anyway,
Ed O'Keefe? No.
Ed O'Keefe, he's got a bunch of cool things. He's got a rule. He's got a bunch of kids, and I've got a bunch of kids. He's got more than me. He has I believe his is now a 24-hour rule. Like, he's reached legendary status, which he can implement this, which is his rule is when he travels, he has to be back on the ground in 24 hours.
Wow.
Which is like, because he's home with his kids and everything. So I've created some similar rules. So I try and keep it short and sweet, and I try to minimize the number of times that I travel. So I do travel a fair amount, but you talk about Operation Agency Freedom. I do not want freedom to be away from my family. I want the freedom to be with my family. So gotta pick and choose.
100%. Well, we're definitely going to talk about that in a second. But like I said, before we actually jumped on, we start every show with a little roundtable discussion. And yours is really, really interesting. I don't think we've had anybody on the show who is a basketball player. And I know that you've been playing for pretty much your whole life, and you still play now as a grown adult. So Why don't you talk about that, and how did you get started playing basketball?
Oh man, so started playing basketball in 3rd grade. And I distinctly remember, you're 3rd grader, you're into whatever. And I was at one of my friend's house, and the older siblings were talking about the Suns and the Lakers. Back when, both of those teams were sort of good and there was a rivalry. Now they basically just both suck. But anyway, and I remember, like, I can visualize in my head the headline. It said Suns versus Lakers, or Suns beat Lakers. I don't remember who beat who, but I remember seeing the names. I was like, what am I reading? Who are the Suns and what are the Lakers? That introduced me to basketball, 3rd grade, and I fell in love with it, and I was addicted growing up. Like my growing up years were basically basketball. So, like, just loved playing forever. I went, after I graduated, so I played all through high school. After I graduated high school, I went on a mission for my church, came home, and ended up getting married really quickly. And we had our first daughter, like a year after we got married. And I didn't have really any skills to speak of. So me continuing to try and pursue playing basketball while trying to raise a family didn't really work. So it's like, I got to go be responsible, make money. So I didn't play basketball in college. I just played pickup ball, 3 or 4 times a week, different places. And then as I got older, this is probably 3 or 4 years ago, I was in a mastermind, Joe Polish's Genius Network mastermind. I sat down next to Tucker Max, Tucker Max. So read a bunch of books. We started ripping. We started talking about basketball. I was like, dude, have you ever been to these fantasy basketball camps? I was like, what is this thing that you speak of? And he's like, I got to make it to you. So intro me to this guy. There's this company called Pro Camps. And what they do is it's for people, you have to be 35 and older. And they set up these fantasy basketball experiences. It's not really a camp as much as it is like a weekend experience. You roll in, so I've been to Kansas University, I've been to Kentucky, I've been to Miami. I've been to all those multiple times. The coaches run it. So like Bill Self runs it, been in his house like 3 times. They've got like evening things. Calipari runs the one in Kentucky. So you go to these camps, and there's probably 50 guys or so that are there. You show up, you're in the actual stadiums. Like, I played in Allen Fieldhouse, I played in Rupp Arena. You're in the actual stadiums, and you show up, and they basically run some scrimmage games, and they're scouting you. And all the players are there too. So like when I was there at Kentucky, like Darren Fox was there, Malik Monk was there, Bam Adebayo was there. They're all in the NBA now. And as at Kansas, you've got now I'm forgetting their names in the Kansas. The guy was just my anyway. You got all the Kansas players that are there, right? And so they're all watching these games. They just put you on arbitrary teams and have you do these 10-minute scrimmage games, and they're watching you, and they're basically scouting you. Because then what they do is all of those people go into a room and they do a draft.
Nice.
And you're out doing some skills exercise or whatever. They do a draft. They come out. They announce the teams, and they've got like the coaches that come out are former college coaches, former NBA coaches, like Fran Fraschilla, who used to coach in the NBA, is a coach. They've got like ESPN commentators, Seth Greenberg, Dino Gaudio, like they're all the coaches. And then you have the players get assigned to your team as like the managers. And so you put them on teams, you do like a 20-minute practice, and then you play a game the first day, 2 games the second day, and then there's a tournament the third day to see who wins. And if you win, you get to cut down the nets and everything. So it's like the only thing that I spend money on that is for me to go do, and it's pretty fun.
Wow, that's awesome. So my first question is, what place in the draft did you go?
So they don't tell you the exact order of the draft. They just
okay. I'm imagining that it's like everybody lines up, like you're picking teams when you're in grade school.
No, not that. But like they send out pictures afterwards, and they have like video footage. They record the games so you can go back and watch it. They keep stats of every game. They have like refs are there, like legitimate refs are there. So like in some of the pictures, it's usually in the first. There's usually either 4 or 6 teams, and I don't know. I'm somewhere in like the 4 to 6. Like I'm in that first round, and it just depends on who's there and if people are going for height or whatever. But so
nice.
it's super fun. Like I can tell people I dropped 30 points in Allen Fieldhouse, which not many people can say. I mean, granted, I'm playing with other people, right? But so, and I hit some pretty ridiculous shots in that arena. So I hit. Do you follow basketball much?
No, I'm a soccer player. I've been a soccer player my whole life, and now I actually do jiu-jitsu as well.
All right.
But they have similar experiences to what you're talking about.
Well, anyone that follows basketball will remember Steph Curry. The Warriors were playing the Oklahoma City Thunder before Kevin Durant left the Thunder.
Okay.
And they're in. I don't remember what game it was, but the Thunder were up the entire game. It's in the playoffs, and I think it was in the playoffs. The Warriors are coming back, and it might have been in overtime. I don't remember, but basically the Warriors were down 2. Thunder missed a shot. Steph Curry gets a rebound with maybe 5 seconds left. He's going up the left side of the court, and he's probably 10 feet behind the three-point line, just past half court, and pulls up and just nails a 3 at the buzzer, and then they win the game. We were playing in Allen Fieldhouse, and they shot the ball. I caught a rebound. It was halftime, so it wasn't to win the game, but I caught it going up the left side, and my brain's stupid like this. I literally, when I caught it, I was dribbling, I'm like, oh, I got a chance to pull off a Steph Curry moment. So I came down and pulled up, and it was like maybe 2 or 3 steps inside half court and nailed it. It was right in front of Miles Simon. He was the coach of the other team. Miles Simon was on the Final Four team for U of A back in '97, and is the coach or as an assistant coach for the Lakers. Anyway, so it was right in front of his team, so we got to talk trash. And anyway, there's a bunch of cool. It's like all that stupid stuff that there's no rational justification for why it's fun, except I like it. Anyway.
On the contrary, I think that the rational justification is that you started an agency and you put the systems in place so that you do have the opportunities to do things like this. That's the justification. It's like you built this business so that you can do stupid stuff like this.
Yeah. So it's pretty fun. So that's where, between that and chasing my kids around and then running an agency and other things, that pretty much occupies all my time. So.
Well, that's awesome, man. What an amazing experience. And like I was saying, like I've been a soccer player my whole life, and that the professional teams do have experiences like this, like these fantasy camps, and people pay, thousands and thousands of dollars basically to pretend like they're a professional and to train like they're a professional. And to me, I think it's totally worth it. Like, what an amazing experience that not a lot of people get to do. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Were there any business lessons that you learned from these experiences that you've applied into 6th Division?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily. So you meet, like, when you go there, you're already in like a group of people that could have a discretionary income. Like, they've done something right? To be able to go there. And so there are, little minor lessons that you pick up as you talk to other people about their businesses, which is good. I remember specifically, so I've been doing it for probably 3 or 4 years. I don't know, I've probably been to 10 different camps. Wow. And the reason why I keep going back is the competition's okay. For me, it's 2 things. One, I love the challenge of, like, it's organized basketball, which last time I played organized basketball was in high school.
Right.
And so when I went the first time, there's a clock, there's substitutions, there's a coach, there are referees.
There's referees.
Pickup ball is like, there's no pressure around time in pickup ball because it's just you got to get to a number. But when you're playing, and I was like, oh, this is a whole new game. This is like the whole new challenge. So I go back for that because it's a new challenge. And I remember I did a journal entry. It was when I hit that long shot and I dropped 30 points, that little camp. And I probably averaged that camp. I probably averaged, like, I don't know, it's like 24 points a game, and like
impressive.
And like a bunch of like I played really well. And as I was going home, I was like, this is really interesting because it gave me a whole nother appreciation for how people that are at the top of their game perform consistently night in and night out. Because the reason why that happened is there was never a moment where I coasted. That was the biggest thing. Is like as I look back, I was like, man, I was just going. Like I was attacking the whole game, the whole time, pressing the envelope and going. And I remember I did a whole journal entry about it. It's like, that's what I want to do in every other aspect of my life. Like it's always, you got to always be attacking and going after what you want, which presupposes that you actually know what you want. But so that's been one really big lesson for me coming out of it. And if I thought about it, I come with more. But that's been one is like you got to have your foot on the accelerator, and things are going to get thrown your way, and you just go around them. And it might take you a while to go around it, but there's like at the end of the day, there's no other option. You either quit or you go around it, and quitting is just not really an option. So
right, exactly. Awesome. Well, let's get into Sixth Division. So for the few people that are listening that have not heard of Sixth Division, tell us what you guys do, and then we'll also get into how you got started.
Cool. Yeah, we help entrepreneurs, small business owners create automatic client journeys. And just really quickly to describe what that is, when we talk about getting clients, there's two primary functions that exist. There are things that I call eyeball efforts, which is everything you do to get in front of people's eyeballs. And then as you get those people to respond and turn into leads, that's the beginning of the client journey. And the client journey runs from the moment you capture a lead all the way through until they bought, you've delivered, they're happy and excited. And ideally, we keep them in that loop as long as possible. It also includes like all of your email lists. So it's this asset in the business that unfortunately most people don't think about it as an asset, but it is the experience that's delivered from the time you capture a lead to the time they're a client. And the automatic part is we just want to make that thing be consistent and run like clockwork. So we come in specifically, and in order to make that happen, you've got to first be able to like take out of your head and see like, oh, that's the ideal journey that I want. And then identify, well, what tools and resources am I going to put into place to make sure that this thing's automatic? So we help people extract the ideas out of their head, upgrade that strategy, and then get it implemented so that it will actually run in their business. So we do nothing with eyeball efforts other than give you information and insights about how your eyeball efforts are performing. But we don't do any Facebook ads. We don't do any website building or design. We don't do any LinkedIn. Like we don't do any of that. We're on the side of cool. You have to go do all of that, but we want to build this better. Like it's like we want to build a better car that when you put gas in, you can go faster. So that's what we do, and we work, like I said, entrepreneurs and small businesses on whatever different aspect of their client journey needs upgrading. And yeah, we sort of geek out on it. It's kind of fun.
Awesome. So what's the origin story?
The origin story is that back in 2004, I was working at the University of Phoenix online as an admissions counselor, which is code for I was a sales rep.
Yep.
And I was there for 2.5 years, and it was the job that everybody needs, where it's like, this is soul sucking. My brothers reached out to me. They're like, hey, we're starting this software company. We're doing this thing called CRM. I'm like, CR what? I don't know what you're talking about. And it was Infusionsoft, which is now called Keep. And they had 5 employees. I started part-time there doing some work with them. So I was basically working 2 jobs. And then their support team left because there were 6 of them. So their support team left, which took them down to 5. And they needed somebody to be their support team. So I was like, cool, I can make less money and lose all my benefits. And I've got a couple of kids. Sounds like a great idea. Let's go. So I quit working at the University of Phoenix. Went there. So I was a 6th employee at Infusionsoft. I spent about 7 years there and got to see firsthand the company grow from 6 to 150 employees. And then also see, like in this world of client journey, and for those that aren't familiar with Infusionsoft or Keep, which I would be surprised that people listening to this are not, it's the tool to help you deliver an automatic client journey. So I got to see like how entrepreneurs struggle with organizing their ideas and actually making their client experience better. So I was there for 7 years. Keep Infusionsoft hit a rough spot, and they laid off 10% of their company, and I was included in that layoff. And I turned around and I was like, well, nobody knows this tool better than me because I was involved in product development. I should go start helping people with this. So I did some freelance consulting for about 18 months, realized really, really quickly I do not like freelance consulting. At that time, I was like, there's no way I want to do anything with freelance consulting. I want to build a team, and I want to build something. So I partnered up with another guy that I had worked with at Infusionsoft for a while. He's my business partner now. And we're like, dude, let's just go own the Infusionsoft space of like how to automate your business, how to make your business automatic, because there were no other competitors at that point. So we started Sixth Division, and our whole goal was we want to simplify the process of, we didn't call it this then because we didn't really know what we were talking about, but now what I would say is we want to simplify the process for a business owner of designing the ideal client journey and then making it automatic. So started building a team, went through lots of ups and downs through that, so high points, low points. 18 months, so about 18 months of freelancing when we started our company. We sold a little bit of a service, and then we got sort of down. Got to this point, I woke up, it was April 2nd, 2012. I was at an event. I was going to be speaking. I was selling that night as part of our sponsorship. And I had emails from my bank accounts that my business and personal accounts were overdrawn, both of them. I was like a good shot of confidence to go.
Yeah, exactly. Go attack that stage.
Take off my
you have no money.
So luckily we were blessed. That night went well. We survived. We did 7 figures in our first year, and then we continued to grow from there. Built a multi-7-figure agency, and lots of learnings in that of like team and process and all of that. And then if I sort of fast forward through a lot of that, probably 5 or 6 years later, we had cycled out a lot of our initial core employees, and I kind of fell out of love with my business for a while.
Mm-hmm. And what year is this? What year would you say this is in?
I would say this was 2000 and what are we in, 19 now? Probably like 2016, 17-ish, like a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Ended probably not even a year ago is when I came out of that phase. But it was like, man, I lost focus on what I was doing, who I was serving, and why I cared. And the business had grown, but I hadn't grown with it personally. And so it had grown bigger than me. And so what I started to do is I started to put people in place to like shield me from the business because I was tired. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't work because then you don't have insights into it. And slowly customer satisfaction started to drop. And we got there. It was July of 2018. We had like $200 and some odd $1,000 in expense, like our expense line was a couple $100,000. But I wasn't making any more money than when our expense line was nowhere near that. Mm-hmm. And so when we got to the point, then it was like we were weeks away from being out of cash and the business just going away. And there's a part of me, like, if I'm being completely honest, there's a part of it's like, oh, please just happen so that I can pretend like it wasn't my fault and it just went away and I can be freed from this. The reality is it wouldn't have freed me from anything. I would have just been taking the same bullcrap mindset to whatever the next thing was that I did. So hit that point and something clicked inside of me. It was like, I have an idea. What if we just go make this thing be what I want it to be so it serves me? And we went through this phase. I call it getting to clothes that fit, which is essentially at that point, $200,000 plus in expenses, where a large chunk of that was expenses just to pay for the cost of going and getting revenue to cover those expenses. There was it was all broken. And my analogy is it was like I was wearing a double XL. Mm-hmm. I should have been wearing a large t-shirt. And my solution was to go to the gym and pump iron and eat a bunch of food to get swole to fit into the shirt. That's just freaking exhausting. So getting to clothes that fit was like, or the other option is you could just go buy a large t-shirt. And it took us through a phase of just like trimming. Oh, we don't need that. Sorry. We can't afford this role right now. Sort of like own up to what you've created. And ultimately it led to July of 2019. Our expense line was $84,000.
Awesome.
With like almost no impact to what actually came home to me. And then in that, everything starts to shift. Like I fell in love with my business again. I'm excited again. Team members are like, hey, you want to know why I'm excited? Every Monday we meet and we start with personally I'm excited about, professionally I'm excited about. And there was like a 6-week stretch where every single week somebody was saying, I'm excited because Brad is. And I didn't realize the impact of me not being excited on everybody else. Clients are happy. Like everything just started to shift because I fell back in love with my business again. And that sort of leads us to where we are today. So hopefully
it's pretty interesting because you started off the origin story of 6th Division talking about how you didn't want to be a freelancer and you wanted to have people in place. And then you got to a point where you had all these people and it's almost like, you had all these people in place, but you kind of lost sight of the places that you wanted them to be in. And then you rediscovered the importance of your mission when you started. And then now things seem like they're not only aligned in the business, but also with your personal life.
Yeah. So
your mentality and stuff like that.
Yep. So we talked about the dry erase board. This is where it comes into play. Because there is this concept of alignment. So I've created for me, I'm very much like frameworks and systems guy. Okay. I'm just not smart enough to have stuff rolling around. I've got to have no, this is how I think about everything, organized. So when I look at business, I've created a thing that I built, I'm trademark called the small business stack. That's how I look at everything in the business. And this will explain exactly what you just talked about. There are essentially 4 layers that make up every single thing that goes into your business. Like, I don't care what conversation you want to bring up, it fits into one of these 4 layers. The very bottom is you as the leader of your business. And then, so you start out, you got your business going, and what you have is you have a vision of what your business can do for other people and what it can do for you. So in vision, what I talk about there is vision connects the purpose of why you're doing this, the mission statement, that like the thing that gives you goosebumps about the impact that you're going to make, which is great, but also theoretical. It connects it directly to the product menu that you offer, and then into the financial model that says, here's how you're going to actually make money. And this has to be aligned. So I've got a program that I teach called the Small Business Spine in here, where we make sure we're clear on what do you want out of this, all the way through to how's the financial model going to work to make sure that you get it. So that's vision. Once we have this clear, we can start to build a team around it. Mm-hmm. And the team, it's all about what roles do I need, what people do I want, what's my hiring process look like, what's our meeting rhythm so the team's organized. And then the very top are where we go get clients and we actually make money, right? And this stuff here is where we talk about eyeball efforts in the client journey. So what happened is we started, and I realized initially, when I started my 18 months of freelancing, what I realized initially is my vision was not one where I just did all the stuff on my own. Like, that wasn't going to work. It didn't align for me. It wasn't the thing that I wanted. It didn't fit my return. So I had to pivot. So I got a team and everything went really well. But here's what happened. I stopped progressing. And the reason why this is a stack is because these are all foundational layers. I stopped growing. So our team grew in number, and they also grew in their appetite for growth. But I wasn't a strong enough foundation as a leader to support that. It actually intimidated me because I was not the person who was the best at everything. And so rather than doing what you ought to do, which is step into it and grow, I shrunk from it and I tried to hide from it. So I've got my team growing. They're pushing down because if your team's growing but your vision is not going to match it, your team's going to push back. And then we started getting a bunch of clients, and this is where all the money happens. And so if you don't have this aligned, it's really easy to get enamored with and just look at money and think that money's going to solve everything. But if these all don't align all the way down, and if you don't have solid foundational pillars leading all the way up, you will feel empty inside and it will suck. That's where I was. And so what I had to come back to was, let's trim this back down. Let's make sure the team is aligned to that. Let's get really clear on what I want out of this thing so I can get that clear in a vision, make sure it fits with my team, and then come back to what baggage do I need to shed so that I can be the proper foundation for this company, and we can actually go grow it, and I can get a clear vision that I'm excited about. I can lead powerfully so my team can get rallied around it so they can go show up halfway for the clients. So
now, in terms of baggage, what would you say was the first realization that you had in that? Are we talking about staff that you didn't need, or software, or office space, or what were some of the first things that you like, the epiphany where you're like, I don't need those things?
It's a great question. So I think the initial thing that set it off for me is the initial thing that like opened up the possibility for all of this baggage to get in was I'm really good at crafting a vision of what's possible. I believe you can go create whatever you want. Mm-hmm. And I would craft a vision that my team would get excited about. But here's what I never did. I would shield them from what it would actually take to go get it. And so like I've actually, this has turned into one of my parenting philosophies, because parenting, leading companies, there's a lot of parallels. And what it is like, I, as a parent or as a leader of a company, I never want to be the one that's between my child or a team member and reality. Right. I want to be on the side coaching you. But what happens a lot of time is we as leaders will actually act as a protector, and we'll be like, hey, it's really cool. We're going to go get that thing over there. And then the employee doesn't do the work, or they don't actually perform in a way that they need to. And then what I do is I try and step in and be sort of the broker or the savior to solve the problem, rather than stepping next to them and be like, hey, I know we talked about going here, but you actually didn't do what it took to get there. Like, I know we talked about making more money, but guess what? We didn't actually you didn't go make it. And so I was basically, one of my weaknesses at that point was I couldn't have that conversation. What that creates is it creates a bunch of entitlement, and not entitlement like, not entitlement like it's arrogant entitlement or like selfish entitlement. Mm-hmm. It just creates like, well, why don't I have this? Like, I created a vision and then couldn't deliver on it, but I wasn't willing to help them see what their responsibility was in it. Yeah. So that was one of the elements I had to get over. And then after that, what happened is the team started to grow in what they wanted. And because I wasn't able to just say, well, no, here's what it's actually going to take. We started to add more team, and everything up here started to get inflated. We needed to get to close the fit. So when we went to that was what allowed it to happen. That was what sort of created the environment. And when we flipped and went into cutting, it was, we sat down and said, okay, look, this is what has to be true for us as business owners. And what we're going to do is we are not done with this meeting until we have created a business model. What it looked like our last 6 to 12 months of actual revenue coming in, actual sales. We looked at the realistic load that our coaches could handle, our team members could handle. And we said, we are not done until we've cut everything and this thing is profitable tomorrow. And we didn't just cut everything and then not pay people. Like we always do like a transition as we help people go out. Mm-hmm. But it was like, well, we're going to build a model today that works. And it was, I mean, we're talking $200,000 down to $84,000, 15 people down to 9. Like at this event that I spoke at recently, the mantra I said is you decide ruthlessly and you execute humanly. And at that point, it was like, we're going to decide ruthlessly. It doesn't matter who the people are. I'm not going to look at faces. We've got people that have worked here for like 6 years. Like, I'm not looking at faces. We have to trim this. So we ended up letting, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 people go. And we transitioned them out and helped them. We moved a couple of people to part-time. It was like, this is fixed now. And then we've been able to rebuild. It has created space because we're wearing clothes that fit. It's created space for us to get creative again and get excited about where we're going. But I would say, like, we're in our office space we got, a 6-year lease. We're 4 years into it. So the office, we couldn't cut that. But it was, all right, these people got to go. These expenses got to go, period. And we're just like, we're going to get to the point of it has to work on paper. If it doesn't work on paper, it's not going to magically work in real life. And so it was not the most exciting time.
I would say,
yeah, I mean, crappy conversations they have, but it was the right decision. And right. And another phrase I like to use, especially when you have to go through something like this, is it was disappointing, but disappointment fades. Good decisions don't. And so now, all best decision ever. Then it sucks, but when you make the right decision, like that never fades or hurts later.
100%. And I can definitely relate to what you're talking about because you guys grew very, very quickly and everything's feeling good. And, like it seems like you can do no wrong. And then all of a sudden you wake up and there's some issues.
Yeah. Like at the end of the day, I have these things I like to call, like at the end of the day, this is where my brain works is there's a whole bunch of stuff that people talk about and they're saying like what actually is true at the end of the day, irrefutably and definitively. Here's what it is. You are the leader of your business.
Yep.
And you have to have a clarity about what you want out of the business all the way through to how the finances work to actually make you money. Like you can't avoid it. There's no way around it. I don't care how fancy somebody talks about it. At the end of the day, your business is made up of what do you want, what do you sell, how many are you going to sell to make money, and then you're going to have a team that has to handle marketing, selling, fulfilling, and supporting the things that you decide to sell, and then you have to go to the client. Like you can't avoid it. And what I did is I just lost sight of and I stopped paying attention to these fundamental components in the middle and thought that I could just do this and walk home with some money, and you can't. So if you stay disciplined to the core fundamentals that are never going to change, then you can stay on track, which I hope that I don't have to do that again, but I'm also human. So, basically, if I can catch myself, I'm better off and I'm trying to put in processes to make sure that I'm constantly just revisiting core fundamentals that work every single time so that I minimize the number of times that I get distracted and then create problems.
Awesome, man. Dude, this interview took a completely different turn than where I thought it was going to go, but I'm so thankful for you talking about this stuff. Because I honestly, I had never heard this part of the 6th Division story. So I really appreciate you sharing. And we're out of time. So we'll have to have you on another time so we can talk about all the other questions that I was going to ask.
Sounds great. I'm down for it.
Brad, what is the best way for people to get in contact with you?
You can drop me an email, brad@6thdivision.com. And it's 6th Division spelled out SIXTH division.com. In fair warning, it will go to, I fired myself from email. So it'll go to my assistant and she'll get back to you. She's way better at email than me anyway. You can also check out 6thdivision.com, also spelled out. And then I think one thing that I think might be valuable and helpful is like the most critical foundational piece in all of this is this return exercise of getting really clear what you want. It's what I spoke at.
Return exercise?
It's called the return. Okay. And I could just create, I could give that out so people could go through it.
Sure.
I talked about an event that I was just at recently, and every time I've walked through it, especially with people that run agencies, people are like, oh, how did I not have that? So if we do, let's make up a URL real quick and I'll put up a training for people. We'll do 6division.com/, what's the name?
Dude, dude.
What's the simple one? Oh, yeah, I could just look at your app. 6division.com/dude. And this, my experience is this is the most fundamentally critical thing that you can define in your business. And when you get this right, it will clear up everything else that you're going to do. So if you've got any things that aren't, if you've got any wobble in your business, it's usually because that's not defined. So I'll put that together. Go to 6division.com/dude, and I'm sure you can put a link in the notes. Or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put it in the show notes. Who would be the perfect person to reach out to you today?
Perfect person would be, so from a client standpoint, if you're looking at, if you're like, dude, my client journey is all over the place and I want to grow my agency, but like my client experience isn't dialed in and organized enough. So I'm afraid that if I go add a bunch more clients or if I go add team members, the whole thing is going to fall apart. That would be a great person to reach out. And then if you have, so that'd be a great person to reach out if you want us to help you get your client journey dialed in. And then another great person from like a partnership standpoint would be if you have clients and maybe you're doing like the eyeball efforts or some other aspect and you're like, man, I would love to be able to make some additional money by helping people dial in their experience. Because if you're doing eyeball efforts and their experience and their client journey is broken, we can actually help you get a better return by upgrading that. So we could partner on that. So that'd be another great person to reach out. And then lastly, if you run events and you want someone to come speak that is says some things that are important and is kind of funny, then I'd love to be there.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being on the show, Brad. To all of our listeners, thank you all for tuning in today, and make sure you return next Thursday and every Thursday for the next episode of Operation Agency Freedom. Bye, guys.
See ya.